Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, says Africa is working with the European Union and other partners to help create regional vaccine manufacturing hubs, and they're considering South Africa, Senegal, Rwanda, and Nigeria. Sam Chidoka, Managing Partner at Kairos Capital, joins me now to discuss this and other headlines making the rounds. Sam, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. Let's start with that story around the vaccines. So it's quite interesting to see the team up between the World Bank and the African Union. It is expected 60% of the population by 2022 is the target. 400 million people is what they're trying to achieve with this latest move. And as I did mention, SA, Senegal, Rwanda, and Nigeria are considered as production hubs. The point on Nigeria obviously is quite interesting to me, but overall, what's your takeaway from this story?
Hello, Wally, and good afternoon, and thanks for having me. Well, it goes without saying that we need help as far as this pandemic is concerned and vaccination is concerned. If Europe and the rest of America, especially North America, decide to go ahead and vaccinate all their people and do not help with the rest of the world, you're going to find that you probably have more people dying from this pandemic. So what needs to happen is this kind of handshake across the rivers, where people begin to help. Nations that vaccinated a lot begin to help other nations. The World Bank coming back together with African Union to make sure that lots of people are vaccinated. If you think about it, that we got only about 3-point-something million doses in Nigeria for 200 million people, then you know you haven't even scratched it at all.
Right.
So it's important that these kind of collaborations happen. Choosing Nigeria as a hub goes without saying. We have the manpower, and we cover the rest of West Africa, and then South Africa for the southern part of Africa, and then Senegal as well for other parts of Africa. So I think it's a step in the right direction.
All right, and of course, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala did make a strong point when she mentioned that the over-centralization of vaccine production capacity is incompatible with the equitable access in a crisis situation. So it certainly makes sense for us to get more production locally. But let's move on to another story around the insurance industry. And as you know, the regulator in Nigeria has raised the minimum capital requirements for life and non-life businesses. We have seen, to some extent, some compliance, but of course, the issue has been riddled with court cases in terms of progressing to where the authorities would like the insurers to be. But on the bright side, we've seen assets rise to about 2 trillion naira. But I was just comparing that with the total asset size of the largest bank in Nigeria, Zenith Bank, and that's only about a quarter of their total assets. So one bank, in terms of its assets, sort of really dwarfs the entire insurance industry. So, but what do you make of the recent dynamics there?
Yeah, so in the insurance industry, we find that when NICOM came up with this regulation, it sounded like a tall order because, again, the insurance companies in Nigeria or the insurance industry has not performed as much as one would expect. If you compare the contribution to GDP, it doesn't give much confidence. Now, you add the fact that we also had the pandemic and all the things that happened in 2020 to the deadline that was set by NICOM, then it made sense to move the deadline. Of course, some of the operators in that industry went to court, and so those court cases have to be realized and decided. But very importantly, like you mentioned about the banking industry vis-a-vis the insurance industry, in some climes, insurance companies do own banks. In Nigeria, we find that reverse was the case with banks owning insurance companies before they were asked to diversify from those investments. I think that it's important for the insurance company to grow so that we're able to underwrite insurance locally and even reinsure locally and have the capacity to pay claims. Insurance is a confidence-building business. When people have claims and you pay them, then they will come back and do more insurance. But if you don't pay claims, it becomes difficult for people to take up claims. So I think it's a step in the right direction to get the insurance industry to stand firm and be fully capitalized.
Indeed. And of course, the insurance companies work with reinsurers, many of them from outside the country. But of course, many would argue that the big growth opportunity for the insurance industry is somewhat around the micro something similar to micro lending. So in other words, we're talking about how we can get to the bottom of the pyramid, to the huge population in Nigeria, many of them obviously still struggling with challenges around poverty. But if we can find a way to get them to pay premiums, then I think there's such an incredible opportunity for the insurance industry to really ramp up its capacity in this country.
Well, I agree. In theory, it sounds right. But in practice, let's dice the numbers. You have a country of 200 million, depending on whose data you believe, over 100 million are below the poverty line. If people are struggling to eat, the least thing they worry about is getting insurance. So you make that out. Over time, because of inflation, devaluation of the currency, the middle class has been shrinking and shrinking fast. And so the least of their problem as well will be insurance. So in terms of what is the effective market in Nigeria, it might not be as large as people think it is. And that's why some foreign insurance companies have come to Nigeria and failed woefully. The second part of it is that you cannot talk about the lower part of the pyramid without having products that appeal to the mass market and means for them to use those products that is driven by technology. That's the way to go. The insurance industry will begin to find ways, like the banking industry has done, where you have banking apps that allow you to open accounts without going to the bank and being able to get to the mass market. We must find creative ways driven on the back of IT to be able to reach the lower part of the pyramid. But I dare say that there isn't too much money to get from that side. Rather,
right.
Insurance companies should grow big and be able to underwrite the big transactions in oil and gas.